Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. I hope you guys are well. Can you guys hear? Can you guys see? Is it working? So, alhamdulillah, mashallah, Ramadan came, Ramadan went, and that's it, innit? So what can we do? This is how life is. And we got to make the most of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us, all the opportunities that Allah gives us in life, to become better people and utilize them in a positive way. So whatever capacity we have, whatever abilities we have, we should try and home in on those, and try and become someone in our community that we can be proud of. This is the kind of thing that we should all try and endeavor. Wa alaikum assalam, Adil. So after Ramadan finishes, the difficult thing is, because in Ramadan we were in such a you can say a strict routine. Once you go out of a strict routine, you lose it all, right? It's very difficult to maintain it. So what you have to do after Ramadan is you have to try and start things. So you don't have to do everything, but just start one or two things. If you can't do two, do one thing, but focus on that one thing. For example, like maybe you might want to start doing some extra nawafil, right? You know what, from now on I'm going to start getting up at night and start praying, or before I go to sleep I'm going to do some extra prayers. Or maybe I'm going to give more sadaqah throughout the year. I'm going to give more charity support causes, maybe orphans, maybe helping a madrasa, helping a masjid, helping people who are impoverished in your own community. Or maybe even volunteer for something as well. Or maybe even start knowledge, start learning, right? A structured system. Try to do something. That's basically the gist of it. Don't just leave yourself like that, because after Ramadan, it's like you were on such a high buzz, right? On the graph you were so high up, and then all of a sudden, as soon as Ramadan finishes, you have this big dip. You go to the masjid and hardly anyone's there. You don't have that same zeal to read the Quran or anything else, because that kind of community support isn't there as well. So you got to kind of create that, right? So Ramadan's a boost, but it doesn't mean that Ramadan is the end of it. No, after Ramadan, that's when it really starts. So I remember this is like a bit like when we were studying in madrasa. Imagine you're studying, right? I studied for 9 years. So imagine you're studying for so many years, and then all of a sudden your studies come to an end. You qualify, you graduate. It's like you don't know what to do. So because you were in such a routine, a schedule, that everything was planned. You were in a strict regime, you can say, a routine, and then all of a sudden now you're free. You don't know what to do. So it's you're very lucky if after you graduate you're able to focus on something, and get into the mix, get into the kind of the beef of things, and do good work. So similar with Ramadan. So Ramadan, maybe you got some habits that you had before. Wa alaikum assalam, MP, Minister of Parliament. So after Ramadan, you kind of like, maybe you had some habits that you weren't really happy with before Ramadan, and then you want to quit, you want to stop them. Use this as the opportunity. Stop it, quit that habit. Yeah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will facilitate for you as well, make it easy for you. So we got to kind of do things in our lives that is going to obviously change us, and we have to have opportunities in life, and this is one great opportunity that we've got. So anyway, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give all of us the tawfiq, ability to be able to practice showing obedience to Allah, become stronger in our faith, have a stronger identity as a Muslim, and stand up for causes and support them which are pleasing to Allah, and which help the Muslims around the world, the Ummah. These are all the kind of things that we should try to do, inshallah. Anyway, anything that you guys think that we should try as well, add it in the comments, right? Let me know if you guys have any sort of tips. Maybe some people have some sort of a tip. Maybe they benefited something in this Ramadan that they didn't do in the previous Ramadan. I mean, one of the things I really benefited in this Ramadan is, wa alaikum assalam, Crypto. One of the things I really benefited in this Ramadan was listening to a lot of Quran. So I would just put my earphones in and just listen to loads of Quran, as much as I could. Maybe try to do as many khatams listening. And because I understand the Quran, alhamdulillah, I could kind of go over the same verse so many times that I could look at it in different ways. So it benefited me a lot, alhamdulillah. Normally I kind of, that's the thing, normally what I do is I put my earphones in, and wherever I'm going I listen to poetry, Arabic poetry. And so I listen to it so much that I kind of get, a very good understanding of that particular poem. But in Ramadan, I said, you know what, I'm just going to focus on Quran, inshallah, and I'm going to try to connect myself with the Quran more than any previous year. Wa alaikum assalam, Najuku Stella. And I probably messed that pronunciation up there, yeah, all tajweeds all over the place. But I hope I said your name right. And if I haven't, then I apologize. Right, so answering your questions now. So let me start answering the questions. Let's check out. Alright, so, and if you guys got any questions, you can put your questions up, inshallah. Alright. Anyway, how's everyone been? Has everyone been well? Has everyone what's your kind of like, alaikum assalam Ziryab, what's your kind of take on Ramadan this year? How was it for you? Okay, so I think, did we do this question? If I take hormones to produce breast milk so that I can feed my adopted child under 2 to establish hurma through breastfeeding, will that work? Yes. So if someone doesn't have a child and wants to adopt a child, which is a very good thing, alhamdulillah, I think a lot of people should try adopting children, fostering them as well. And so you get a child, adopted child under the age of 2, and you breastfeed that child, even if the breast milk is produced artificially through taking medication. If the child drinks that breast milk, then the child will be considered to be a legal breastfed child for the mother, and so the mother now is like a real mother for that child, and the children of that mother will be the siblings for that child. So there's no issue of hijab and things like that, right? So the child grows up, and my grandma, yeah, she used to breastfeed loads of children, yeah, loads of children she breastfed, mashallah. And so she's got like so many I've got like so many breastfeeding uncles and aunties, not breastfeeding but breastfed breastfed uncles and aunties. I don't even know who they are, and I said to her, you know what, you should have been careful. She goes, I don't know who they are now. So we got to be careful, breastfeeding. So it's a good thing to create ties as well, but at the same time, be careful. Okay, next question. Would it be permissible to give sweets with gelatin in them to non-Muslim friends? I didn't know they had gelatin in them when they were bought. So, okay, this question, this question, did you guys understand the question? So this question, which is, let's say I buy some sweets and that sweet contains a haram ingredient, right? So the whole sweet is not haram, but there's one ingredient in there that has made the sweet haram. So there's a rule in fiqh according to the Hanafis, which is you can't really give something which you're not allowed to receive yourself, like something haram which you're not allowed to become the owner of. You can't make someone else the owner of it as well. So based on this principle, you can't give something, even if it's a small amount of haram in there, you can't give it to someone else. You can't make them, even if it's a non-Muslim. You can't do that. However, in this kind of case, when it comes to things like sweets generally, I would say because there's a small, the amount is trace amounts, it's not allowed for us to consume, but because there's trace amounts in there, small amounts, then I would say there may be some scope, although the Hanafi madhab I don't think would allow this. And based on that principle, I haven't really done thorough research to kind of find out what Hanafi would say about if there's a small fraction of haram in there. I don't know, maybe one of you guys knows. But I think it would be okay if it's a small amount. If it's something like alcohol, which is totally haram, or pork, which is categorically haram, giving that obviously is not allowed. But if there's something which has just a fraction of something haram in there, I think there might be scope for that. Yeah, there's some scope for that. Okay, what is the ruling on saying Assalamu alaikum to kuffar? A group in my area said it was kufr because it was making them think they were Muslim. So it was like perennialism. Also, would the ruling change if the kafir one is talking to an apostate? Alright, so this issue of saying salam to non-Muslims, I'm sure many of you guys have heard this. People say you can't say to a non-Muslim Assalamu alaikum. The only thing that you can say to them is wa alaikum if they give you salam. So there's a hadith where one day the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam was with Aisha radiallahu anha, and he's, a group of people, they walked past, and it was non-Muslims. They walked past the Prophet ﷺ and they said, Assam alaikum, Assam alaikum. They said like that, Assam alaikum, without the la. So the Prophet ﷺ, he responded. Aisha radiallahu anha heard their statement, and she knew Assam alaikum means death be upon you. So it was like they were cursing him, but they kind of twisted the word in such a way that it sounded like they were giving salam. So Aisha radiallahu anha got very upset, and she told them, and the Prophet ﷺ said, no, it's okay. She said, didn't you hear what I said? He said to her, didn't you hear what I said? I said to them, wa alaikum, yeah, and upon you as well, and maybe upon you, right? So, he responded in such a way that it kind of countered their statement. So many of the scholars have taken from this that you shouldn't say Salaam alaikum to non-Muslims, shouldn't initiate salam for them, because this is like Salaam alaikum is like you're kind of guaranteeing them peace and safety, even though maybe if you're at war with them, you don't guarantee them. However, when you look into fiqh, and this is where it's important to distinguish between looking at raw text ayats of the Quran, raw hadith, and looking at fiqh, because fiqh goes through the texts and understand the gist of what these hadith are trying to say, and comes out with like a ruling. This is why fiqh is a very, very important science in Islam, extremely important, because it contextualizes ayats of the Quran, it contextualizes narrations of the Prophet ﷺ. So what the Hanafi fuqaha say is that it's disliked to initiate a non-Muslim with salam if there's no need for it. Like if there's no need to give him salam, then you don't give him salam, right? Because this is something which you should specify for Muslims. However, the Hanafis say that if you give someone salam because you have some sort of mutual sort of relationship, like for example, a man's married to a non-Muslim woman, and a man can be married to a Christian or Jewish woman, it doesn't mean he's not going to give a salam, right? He's going to give a salam because he's married to her, and marriage and love and all that kind of stuff involved. So he's going to say assalamu alaikum to her. And likewise, if you're working with maybe your customers are non-Muslims, and you're in a Muslim environment where people commonly, it's a cultural thing to say assalamu alaikum, right? And when I was in Pakistan, it was a very common thing. A lot of the Christians over there would say assalamu alaikum, and you wouldn't even know that they were Christian. So yeah, so if there's some sort of a mutual sort of kind of deal going on, relationship, then they can give salam. Otherwise, if there's no need at all, and like you're saying, you're just trying to suck up to them, like they say, no, you're just trying to suck up to them, you're just trying to impress them by something, give them salam, then if there is a need, if you want them, maybe they come to your masjid or something, or maybe you invite them to your house, or maybe you're doing business partners with them, or you're buying and selling from them, and there's a kind of need to create some sort of relationship, then it's fine, you're allowed to. Because remember, the Quran tells us that إِذَا حُيِّيتُم بِالتَّحِيَّةٍ, when you are greeted with a greeting, greet with something better or the same. Okay, so hope that answers the question. So no, it wouldn't be kufr. No, I mean, see, this is what happens when people, they don't use fiqh, they don't look at like through the lens of fiqh, trying to understand it, and they come to some wrong conclusions, like claiming someone is a kafir because they gave a non-Muslim salam. That's wrong, guys. Okay, anyway, let's look at next question. Assalamu alaikum. I woke up normally, ate suhoor normally, but then I went to the bathroom and realized I needed to make ghusl. I made ghusl and prayed fajr. Then I fasted that day. Did the fast count, or do I need to make the fast? Okay, I think this was a bit late here for me to answer, but anyway, I'll answer it anyway. So, person wakes up for suhoor. Then they went to the bathroom and realized that they needed to make ghusl, like maybe they had sexual intercourse or maybe something else. So I made ghusl and prayed fajr. Then I fasted that day. Did the fast count? Yes. So your state that you're in does not nullify your fast. Like if you're in a state of what we call janaba, major ritual impurity, it doesn't nullify your fast. Your fast will still count, right? One second. Okay, next. All right. Okay. Okay, so question is this. Assalamu alaikum. An old woman is unable to fast, has high blood pressure and other diseases. How much fidya does she pay? So I responded and I said £3 per fast. She is not rich, works at a place to earn, also is weak and old. Yeah, so if she can't pay for it, what she can do is slowly give it. So she can have like a long payment plan. And she can pay small little bits, maybe like £1 a week or something. Yeah, long term, she can break it down. That's totally fine. And if she totally is incapable, she has no means, then she doesn't have to pay until she's got the ability. So she won't be held responsible for it. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What is the reply of as-salatu khairun min an-nawm? So as-salatu khairun min an-nawm is a segment in the adhan which is said in Fajr. So Fajr adhan, they say this. So if a person hears the muazzin say as-salatu khairun min an-nawm, salatu khairun min an-nawm means salat is better than sleep, because a lot of people are going to be sleeping at Fajr time. So he says this statement to kind of motivate people. So this statement, how do you respond to it? So you say sadaqta wa bararta, meaning you're saying to the muazzin, you have spoken the truth, meaning salat is better than sleep, and bararta, meaning you have fulfilled your statement. So you have acted upon this. By you giving the adhan means you're awake, so therefore you're going to pray. So you fulfilled it. So sadaqta wa bararta. Okay, alright. What is the difference between sadaqah jariyah and lillah? So they can be the same thing, they're not mutually exclusive. Lillah simply means it's for the sake of Allah. It's not zakat, it's not fitr, sadaqat al-fitr, it's not like a vow that you made, it's not kafara. Yeah, so it's none of these basically. Anything besides this is what we call lillah. So sometimes it's confusing in mosques when they write lillah, sadaqah, zakat, and it confuses people. In reality, there's only two things: zakat and lillah. So all those four categories that fall into zakat, fitr, vows, and kafaras, yeah, those all come into the zakat category. And everything else is for the sake of Allah, lillah. So if you buy your friend some food and you pay for it, that's lillah, that is. If you go to a charity event and you put some money in the box, that's lillah, that is. Right, if you give some money to the mosque, that's lillah, that is. Lillah simply means anything besides those zakat categories that I mentioned. Right, so, and sadaqah jariyah simply means a sadaqah which is perpetually just, churning out reward for you. So, for example, just think of an action that's, continuous. Like maybe you build a masjid, and in that masjid, people are going to pray every day. So, because you paid, let's say you paid for that masjid, and it's built, and now the people are praying in there, and people are reading Quran in there, and people are having, Eid and all sorts of salats in there. When all of this happens in there, every time it happens, you're going to get a share of the reward. Even if you die, you're still going to get a share, so long as people are doing good with it. Yeah, you'll get a share. Or let's say you buy someone a Quran, and you give them, and they memorize the Quran through that. And then they teach someone, and then they teach someone, and then all those teach, like, a fusion, nuclear fusion. Like it just spreads. You want to get the reward of everyone that benefits from it. Okay, so everyone understand that? Makes sense, yeah? Okay, that's sadaqah jariyah. And sometimes sadaqah is not jariyah. It's basically you give it, like for example, let's say you gave someone money to buy some food. They ate the food, it's finished, khalas now. They're not really going to benefit after that. What does this ayah of Surah Nur mean? Let the fornicator not marry except a fornicatress, or adulteress, and let the fornicatress not marry except a fornicator or adulterer. This is forbidden to the believers. Okay, so this is a verse in Surah Nur. الزانية لا ينكحها إلا زان أو مشرك الزانية لا تنكحها إلا زان أو مشرك الزاني لا ينكح إلا زانية أو مشركة وزانية لا ينكحها إلا زان أو مشرك وحرم ذلك على المؤمنين. So this is a verse in Surah Nur. Basically, this is not a prohibition of marrying them. This is like something which is like criticizing the practice of the mushriks, or people who were not Muslim at that time, which was encouraging the practice of being chaste. So Islam was encouraging chastity. And so by encouraging chastity, Islam was saying, look, don't marry fornicators, don't get into a relationship with someone, and don't do that. That's wrong, that is, because your whole marriage is going to be based upon just fulfilling sexual desire. That's what it is. It's not upon becoming serious about the marriage. And an adulterer as well, because if you marry adulterer or adulteress, that basically means that you're compromising the essence of your religion, which is Tawheed, oneness of Allah. So don't marry them. This is why the four madhabs, majority, they say that marrying someone is if there's a woman, let's say, and she was a prostitute, right? You can marry her. It's not the ideal thing to marry because she might not be the best person to bring up your child. Or if you're a woman and you marry a guy who's known to be a fornicator, you can marry him, but he's not the best person to marry because when he brings up your child, the attributes that he's going to have, he won't be able to fulfill. He might not, most likely won't be able to fulfill the rights of the marriage. Yeah, because he's like this. But if he's done tawbah or she's done tawbah, then it's totally fine. Nothing's wrong with it. Yeah, so that's what the scholar. And this is a good example of how a verse says something, but then the scholars, they using other verses of the Quran and using other hadith, they derive an understanding. They contextualize it. My father was told by a scholar that income tax is a form of zakat, so when he calculates his zakat, he should deduct the tax and he pays and then give remaining amount. I just found out that he has been doing that for at least 5 years. He's made tawbah and this year he gave the correct amount. Is there anything else he needs to do? Interesting. No. So zakat can only be given to the 8 categories. Now I mentioned in the Quran. So the 8 categories mentioned in the Quran, you can only give zakat to 8 categories. You can't give it to anyone else. Income tax is basically the government will take off you. So if you're, for example, like earning and the government takes a certain percentage of your wage off you, you can't count that as zakat simply because the zakat, the money that's been taken off you, it's not being distributed to the right people. It's not being distributed to those people who need it, right? So this is why you can't, because there's strict rules regarding zakat. Every school has their strict rules. So income zakat doesn't fall under any of them. So this is why it wouldn't be counted as zakat. I mean, if some people in modern days are discussing this issue, like many modernists are discussing that income tax should be equated to zakat, and therefore, because they look at the concept of, oh well, what's the whole point of zakat? It's like in the welfare of the state, supporting the public. Income tax is basically taking off everyone who's earning a certain amount, some of their wages, and then giving it back to the public who need it. But that's a problem because it's going back into roads which you're going to use, going back into transport which you're going to use. So you'll benefit from your own zakat directly, yeah, which is not allowed. The only thing I could think is, I mean, I don't know if an Islamic State will do this, is if the Islamic State became like the one responsible for the poor and became their wakil, that kind of thing. But I don't know. I haven't really looked into this much, so I wouldn't be able to say much about academic modern scholars saying anything about this. But no, according to four madhabs, and to my understanding, it wouldn't be allowed. It wouldn't be counted as zakat. I'd also like to understand more about jahez, the gift of bride's parents supposed to give to the daughter after a wedding. From an Islamic perspective, would it be wrong to say that Islamically there's nothing wrong with the concept of jahez per se, but because it's turned into a social evil from the point of view of scholars, could consider it permissible? I mean, I don't know how would it be impermissible? How would it be considered evil? It's just a cultural thing. It's got nothing to do with Islam. Just culturally, let's say for example you got daughters, and you want obviously your daughters to have some sort of like furniture for the house they're going to move into. So you buy them some furniture, like a wedding gift. It's fine, totally fine. I don't see anything wrong with it. Yeah, people should be educated in showing off or buying things which are haram or stuff like that. People should be educated, but I don't think scholars should go to this level. It depends. I mean, maybe some survey should be done. What are the social evils of it? Like I don't know what the social evils are. Maybe you can elaborate on that more. Assalamu alaikum, Mufti. Hope you're well. Alhamdulillah, I'm well. Wanted to know whether you're allowed to file your teeth for cosmetic reasons. I hate this kind of question because whenever I think of filing teeth, my teeth, you get that kind of scratching the whiteboard, the blackboard, feeling. So filing teeth is done two ways. Either it's done to make gaps between teeth that are too close, or filing teeth, like some people's teeth are uneven, right? And then they file them to make them all even. If it's for a medical reason and it seems to be a physical, generally people consider a person's teeth to be a physical defect. Generally, some people's front teeth are too long, like the rabbit teeth, they say, or some people's teeth may be joined up together too much, for some sort of a thing which is generally considered to be wrong, then there's scope medically. A person can have these kind of procedures done. But if there's no need for it and it's just done for fashion purposes, then no, then you can't do it. If we wake up late for Fajr after its qada, do we have to read qada as soon as we wake up, or can we? It's best to read it ASAP. Best to read it ASAP, and if you don't, you can pray later on. Yeah, but best, you do it quick as possible, because the Prophet ﷺ would do it like that. Once we were having a discussion that in countries like India, where Muslims live as minority, then a gesture of goodwill, they should stop eating beef, because cows are held sacred in the Hindu religion, and for us Muslims it is not like it's a tenet of our belief, and by not eating beef we will be committing a sin. If anything is discouraged in our tradition as well. What are your thoughts on that? Interesting. I mean, possibly, if Muslims, let's say for example, there's a particular practice which is of another community, and it's really upsetting them when Muslims do it, and so the Muslims abstain from that. It's something which is possible. Yeah, possible. I'm not saying it's wrong. Yeah, possibly they can do that. You'd have to look into this kind of thing. However, what you don't want is this to be turned into some sort of a thing where we don't know the whole context of the situation in India. Maybe it might be taken as okay, if we can make the Muslims compromise this, let's make them compromise something else, or let's make them compromise something else, or let's make them compromise something else. If it's going to lead to something like that, I would say that Muslims should be very careful, right? Otherwise, I think yes, maybe if Muslims are a bit careful, in these kind of areas, especially people who are very serious about this and it hurts them, maybe they can do that. And I don't think it's something which Muslims have to do. Muslims should just do it, not necessarily a moral thing. It's just something that they just to kind of keep peace in society. Maybe, someone can do that. Can you please explain the concept of contentment in Islam, and does that mean it's wrong to be ambitious and work hard or further? Contentment means basically this, that you work as best as you can and you are thankful of what you have. This is contentment. So contentment is basically, let's say for example, a person is earning a certain wage and they look at someone else and then they think to themselves, oh, you know what, I don't have enough. So they're not happy with what they've got. They're not like content with it, as in they're not thankful. They're not, they're not doing shukr, grateful of what Allah has given them. That's wrong. That's not contentment, right? And generally, contentment means that a person tries their best, and this is what they can do. So this is what they can do. Alhamdulillah. So that's where contentment is. But if a person is happy and thankful for what Allah has given them, but wants more, that's fine. You can earn more. كُلٌّ نُمِدُّ هَؤُلَاءِ وَهَؤُلَاءِ مِنْ عَطَاءِ رَبِّكَ. Allah says, we give everyone, Muslims, non-Muslims, whatever Allah wants to give, He can give it. So we have to remember the earnings that we make. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He writes this down for us, and we try our best, to earn as much as we can. Alhamdulillah, support our families. That's fine. But the lack of contentment would be that you tried your best, right? And you're not grateful for what Allah has given you. You're not happy with what Allah has given you, right? You kind of question yourself. Why has Allah only given me this for? How come He hasn't given me this? That's lack of contentment. So contentment does not mean this, that whatever Allah gives you, you don't make any further effort. Now that's wrong. That's what they call tawakkul, where a person has what he has and says, you know what, I don't care. I'm happy with what Allah has given me. I'm just going to rely upon what Allah gives me. No, that's wrong. You have to make the effort. You have to tie the camel. Try your best. So you try your best. And this is a good question, because these are kind of things, misconceptions people have about Islam, and they kind of have a wrong understanding. Okay, can you please explain the concept? Okay. Has Allah Ta'ala given us any control over who we marry, or is it that something that is totally in His hands, like other things such as when we are going to die, born, or who will be our parents? Okay, good question. So when it comes to marriage, when it comes to things like marriage, the thing you have to know about marriage is it's like all other things, all other choices you make in life, like which school you go to, which university you go to, or if you go university, or what kind of job you get, all these kind of things. It comes under the general understanding of the taqdeer, which you have a certain element of choice there. Yeah. So when a person, for example, is going to get a job, he has a choice to apply for that job. He has a choice, all these kind of things. He has to make a certain number of decisions for him to get that job. So same with marriage. So marriage will fall in this. If a person is not interested in a woman and he doesn't make any effort to marry this woman, he's not going to marry her. So the sunnah of Allah is that you have to take the steps. You ask the woman if you want to marry, or if it's a woman asking the man, and then if it goes through, it goes through. If it doesn't go through. Right. So saying that a person, if he's going to get married to someone, whatever happens, yeah, it's kind of like mystifying it. It's kind of like making it seem as though we have no choice at all. Whatever's been ordained for us, we have to happen. No, it's not like that. Ahlul Sunnah wal Jama'ah believe that there is an element of taqdeer, and also the element of us making some choices as well. Yeah, so I hope that answers the question. I think it's answered it. Yeah, so do we have any control over who we marry? Yes, we do. All the choices that we make to try and marry them. Okay. Some people can make a wrong choice in marriage. This can happen. Some people can be stuck in a marriage. It's difficult to get out of it, right, for whatever reason. So these are things that do happen. And if Allah had made you stick with the one spouse, He wouldn't have legislated talaq. The whole point of having talaq shows that you're not stuck with someone forever. Okay, where I live, a part of a Muslim community do not send their daughters to school after they are 13 or 14 because they say studying in mixed schools is haram. Once in Dars, they asked a lady who was giving it if she'd send her daughter to uni, and when the lady replied in affirmative, they angrily stormed off, shouting that they can't listen to a lady who disobeys the commands of Allah Ta'ala. And since they've completely boycotted the rest of the ladies, how would you explain to them from a fiqh point of view that it's okay, albeit not ideal, for girls to study in a mixed school? Yeah, I mean, see, this is one of the conundrums of living in the West, right? Conundrums of living in the West is because the problem in this kind of society is you're not going to have perfect Islam here. You're not going to have the utopian Islam here. All the fiqh rules and everything there. You have to look at a certain situation, and then sometimes you have to compromise certain things. Like, for example, in this country, you have to, if you want to get a car, you got to get car insurance. And we know general scholars say that car insurance is impermissible. However, if you don't get a car, right, then you won't be able to get many opportunities in getting jobs. You're going to have a problem with dropping your kids off at school. You're going to have problems with, maybe going to the masjid and other things as well. Life becomes extremely difficult. This is where the concept of haraj comes into play. Haraj, hardship in Islam. So Allah will never ever burden a person, more than they can bear. This is the concept of haraj. So that's why if you're living in this kind of society, the scholars will say to you, this is the lesser of the two evils. And so you got to look at this situation. If you've got daughters 13 or 14, let's say there's 500,000 Muslim parents who have daughters, and now they want to they got the choice now. Either send their children to school, get an education, and be able to do something in the society, or don't send your children to school and just keep them at home, let them grow up to 16, 18, get them married off, and then they'll just have their family. That is a route that is, you can have daughters, you can bring them up, they can get married, you can have this kind of closed society where people are just continuously just doing this. The problem with this is that you can't see the byproducts of this now. You're going to see the byproducts of this 20, 30, 40, 50 years time in this country, because we're like new in this country. If you think about it, we're like a new sort of not a breed, but we're like a new generation of this country. We're only going to see the results very soon, right? In 20, 30, 40 years time. And then we're going to realize, was it a good choice we made or was it a bad choice we made? So, if you detach a person from what's happening in the society, you will always have a big vacuum, a gap between them. So when they're trying to bring up their children, just by bringing up your children just on Islamic teachings, just purely Islamic teachings, set off from the world, it's going to be like, a Hamish society. You look at Hamish society, what happens there? Yeah, you've probably seen in America, many Hamish. They're cut off from everything, no electricity, no nothing. And so what happens basically is that the negative things begin to emerge later on. Yeah. So how far are you going to go with practicing a strict lakir ka fakir, like they say, approach to Islam? Because it's going to collapse on you one day. if your children, your grandchildren end up questioning Islam and see this disparagement between how society is functioning and the way they're being brought up at home, they're going to realize that, look, this is difficult for us, and they might rebel. And in many cases, this is what happens with people when they have a close community, and then after 20, 30, 40, 50 years, the new generations that come, they start to question a lot. And because they're not given approach in Islam which is robust for that society, it just seems that Islam is not applicable anywhere. You can't get on with any society. Either just you might as well just go back to a third world country or a Muslim country and just live there. Yeah, that's the kind of, and it's very difficult. So I would say in these kind of situations, people can come out with very passionate and emotional statements that you should follow the Quran or follow the Hadith, and the segregation to the ninth level or the nth level. These kind of things are obviously things that we want to work towards. We want to have an idea of the Islamic ethics and morals in our society, with us living in this society. But at the same time, we have to understand things from a pragmatic point of view as well. So a lot of the times this is good what they're saying, but a lot of the times we're just thinking from an emotional point of view. So I would say, yeah, there is scope. I know many people, many scholars whose daughters are in universities or graduates of universities, become doctors and become accountants and become other professions. Alhamdulillah. And I think in this kind of society, especially with the people being confused about atheism and so many other, like homosexuality, LGBT, all these kind of things, despite them even going through the secular system, they're finding it difficult to kind of reconcile how Islam deals with these things. What's Islam's stance on these things, and how do we apply these in our society? So I think fiqh is a very important thing. People need to understand these kind of things, and a lot of this kind of stuff is like a super culture, where you have a particular community, super culture, and then what happens, that culture is that they are very strict on certain things. Like they have like super ghira. Like the Prophet ﷺ even saw amongst some Sahaba, where one of the Sahaba radiallahu anhu, someone asked him, if you came in your house and you saw your wife with another man, what would you do? And he goes, I'll take my sword, I'll stab him there and then. So the Prophet ﷺ, when he heard this, he says, you have ghira, you have protective jealousy. He says, but I am more aghir than you, I have more ghira than you, and Allah has more ghira than all of us. But Allah has set laws. Everything has to be done according to how Allah has ordained. So this is why, we have to kind of look at things from this perspective as well. And I really think that we need to have more balanced scholars in our community, scholars who understand the Sharia, understand fiqh, understand how all of these things fit in place, and how they all work, right? Because that's what we need in our community. It's no point, saying, oh, we've got to all make hijrah. Now we're in a time where we're integrated in this society to a large degree. We have to start, looking at how we're going to approach this. Okay, if we've made a mistake in salat and forgotten to do sajda sahwa at the end, will we have to repeat the salat? Yes, if there's time left, you have to repeat it. If the time has finished, then leave it. I'm not quite sure regarding the rules of when we can break our salat. Can you please explain to them, for instance, if someone sees their baby crying and there's no else to pick them up, then it's okay to break your salat for that. What if I make a mistake during salat? Would it be sinful to break my salat and start again? Yeah, if a person sees their baby or someone which could possibly put them in a lot of fear for their life or health or whatever, you can break your salat. Or you heard someone in your house, you thought some thieves have come, you can break your salat. These kind of situations, yeah. If you make a mistake in salat, no, carry on your salat. And if the mistake is really big, repeat it. And if it's a minor mistake which requires sajda sahu, do sajda sahu. I think that's answered it. Okay, and the last question on the Curious Cat: Who is zakat obligatory upon? I am a student that receives bursaries every term. Is it obligatory for me? Okay, so zakat is obligatory upon someone who has a certain amount of wealth after they've minused all their debts. So if you've got debts, take them all out. Look at your assets, gold, silver. I made a video on this. Check it out. I don't know if you've seen it, my zakat crash course. Yeah, check that out. Watch that and then look at your question. So if you are a university student, many university students are eligible to receive zakat. They don't realize it, right? Because of the amount of debts that they can incur. The debts will outweigh the assets they have, so they can actually receive zakat. Families can give, your brothers and sisters, cousins, your zakat money for university. It's possible. But yeah, it's possible. But it's look at the assets. Watch that video. Hopefully that should clear it up. Okay, so that's all that done. 1 second, let me just I just have to make a phone call, guys. So I'm just gonna go silent for a little while. Yeah, I'm gonna go silent for a little while. Okay, 1, 2. I just gotta make a phone call. Walaikum assalam. If you have things. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry about that. Sorry about that, man. Okay. Yeah. That's fine. Okay, just give me 5 minutes. Yeah, give me 5 minutes. All right. Jazakallah khairan. Okay, sorry about that. So just sorting something out regarding badminton. So I have to go in a bit. So I try to answer as many questions as I could. I've got so many questions on here. Allahu Akbar. So many people, mashallah, mashallah. You guys are wonderful people, man. Okay, so what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to answer a lot of these questions next time. So I'm going to start from the top and try to answer as many as I can. Okay, how about cat food to cats? Most of them are haram. Yeah, I mean, that's the problem. Going to Hanafi school, giving cat food, haram cat food to cats is not allowed, really. Haven't really found any sort of like detailed discussion. I think scholars need to sit down and talk about this masala because it's a very common issue now. Providing cats food and you know, preparing food for cats in your own way is difficult, it's quite expensive as well. Maybe some organization can make, you know, relatively reasonably priced cat food, you know, halal. But generally, no. According to Shafis, there's scope according to the Shafis, but still, there's still some issues of buying something haram. Yeah, so this is something that requires further detailed discussion. I mean, what I try and do is buy cat food for my cat. If there has some haram in there, at least most of it's halal. Yeah, you know, that kind of stuff. So you get like fish and, you know, other things mixed with it as well. Okay, at your wedding, if people take pictures, videos, Instagram stories, even if we put posters in the advertising, they are sinful, or are we sinful too? No, it should be fine. If you've tried your best, I mean, you could be in your house and someone could spy on you, right? You know, sometimes what happens is people, they you know, hack into your camera and they spy on you, and you know, well, that's you know, you can't help that. So if you tried your best, if you've done, you know, your due diligence, then alhamdulillah, then, you know, you won't be sinful. They're going to be sinful for that. As non-mahram, watch their Instagram stories. Yeah, definitely. So you've tried your best, you know, then, you know, if you know clearly that they are going to be taking images and stuff like that, then dress up modestly. But if it's if you've tried your best and you've taken precautions and they're still doing that, then you're not sinful for that. Okay, is it incumbent upon Muslims to buy organic farm eggs instead of caged, which suffer, given most of the in the West afford clothes, shoes, etc.? Is it therefore wajib to buy organic eggs? I don't think so. I mean, I don't think so. I wouldn't see. I mean, I understand what you're saying, that the farm eggs, the way they're treated, is very unfair. And by you buying farm eggs, you're kind of, I mean, caged eggs rather, caged chicken eggs, you're kind of encouraging that, or you're supporting it. I understand what you're saying. But it's not, I wouldn't say it's necessarily, because it's difficult for a lot of people to buy that. I mean, personally, I like farm eggs. I got a student who actually gets eggs, and I'm paying for those eggs, and they're a bit more expensive, but they taste much more better, and the milk tastes much more better as well. Yeah, so I would encourage people to become more organic. Yeah, definitely. Is organ donation allowed, as it's hypocritical to take organs, which loads of Asians do, but then to opt out or donate organs? This is a modern issue. You know, I think you should do Google Mufti Faraz. Go to Google Mufti Faraz organ donations. He's written a very good response and answer to it. Yeah, and I agree with that. What he's written there, I agree with it. So look it up, Mufti Faraz, Faraz, and look up organ donations. Okay, if you listen to music, is it haram? Or if you make a wedding, and I've talked about organ donations before quite a lot, so I think I'll just leave it to that. If you listen to music, is it haram? Or if you make a wedding and you put on, is it haram? The issue of music, I mean, it's a very sort of tricky one. is music haram? What's the ruling of music? Different types of music, all of these kind of things. It requires a long. I think I'll answer this question next time. I think my time has come to an end. But I think these questions are very good questions. Some of them I'm reading, some of them, mashallah, very good questions. I don't know the answer to all questions. The live chat disappears once the live video ends, so they'll have to type. No, they don't disappear. They actually still remain. A lot of them, I can see them. A lot of them I can still see. Sometimes I think it disappears, but not all the time. Yeah, unless there's a time limit. But otherwise, yeah, you can put your questions there. So, Jazakumullah khair. Thank you very much, guys, for attending today. MashaAllah, you guys are wonderful people. I made loads of du'as for you in Ramadan. Some of you guys' names like MP, I remember that, I can't forget that. Crypto, I can't forget that. And other kind of names. I think the stranger the name, the more I seem to remember it in my du'as. Yeah, so I don't know. So anyway, but that doesn't mean that I don't remember the rest of you guys. I remember you guys as well. But inshallah, next time inshallah I'm going to try to do another live stream maybe this weekend hopefully. I'm going to try to do another live stream, or if someone can maybe take images of this like screenshots of these questions and email it to me. All right, email it to me and then I can read that just in case it disappears. So Jazakumullah khair. If you have any questions, you can post them to me on my Curious Cat. So it's Curious Cat, all one word, .me/Liaquat Zaman 82. So that's curiouscat.me/Liaquat Zaman 82. Yeah. So that's just all. You can put all the questions on there, any questions that you have, and I'll just check it out when I get a chance, and then on the next live stream you can have a go. So Jazakumullah khair. Thank you all very much. Jazakumullah khair for I apologize for not being able to answer the questions, and inshallah I'm going to be uploading more videos in the coming days, inshallah. Back to usual. Ramadan, I took kind of break, focus more on Quran, but I'm going to be back on those videos as well. So Jazakumullah khair. Thank you very much, and I will see you next time. I'm going to go for badminton, by the way, now. Yeah, so I do apologize. I have to give preference to badminton sometimes. So assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.